Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Character Playbook NFL Pride Month celebration event. My name is Marissa Meli, and I am Associate General Counsel at the Green Bay Packers. I have a lot of special guests here with me from the NFL and from United Way, and we're going to celebrate Pride Month with you all and share stories and experiences from our own lives. So first off, I want to say thank you, all students, all teachers who came. I'm married to a middle school teacher, and she is just an angel. So thank you all for what you do. Students, your teachers are amazing, and make sure that you thank them for all they do and all their hard work. We have 1,500 students here with us today. That's awesome. Thank you, everybody. I know you're at the end of the year, so thank you for spending time with us. And just as a reminder for students, we're not having an open chat, but you can type your questions in the Q&A box if you'd like. So ask us anything. I'll speak for myself, but we're all open books and we're here to help and be with you today. So feel free to ask whatever you want. And let's meet everybody. Let's meet our guests today. I'm going to ask you all to tell us your name, your job, where you work, and why you're here to participate in this panel. Dan, would you like to start?
No, thank you, but I will anyway. Hi, I'm Dr. Dan Zapp. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm the Senior Director of Research here at Everfi, which you probably haven't heard of, but Everfi is the company that built the Character Playbook course. I work to study and build and then study that course. My PhD is in Applied Developmental Psychology, and I've been with the company for about 10 years now. I wanted to be a part of this because I identify as queer, and I help lead our Pride Affinity group here at Everfi to provide a safe space for all of our queer employees. And I wanted to just get out the word about like the most important things to me that come from working in a safe environment and is focused on well-being and acceptance.
That's awesome, Dan. Thank you. Candice, would you like to go next?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me here today, and I'm so excited to get to chat with you all. As Marissa mentioned, I'm here from United Way Worldwide. I lead some of our communications efforts across the globe. And at United Way, it's very important to us that we foster and cultivate a world that is equitable, where everyone has opportunities, and we accept folks no matter how they identify. We celebrate all of our differences and just create the world that we really want to see and live in. And I'm also here because I'm a mommy of 3 children that are, I feel like they're babies, but they're not babies anymore. And my youngest, she was in the 6th grade when she came out. And I was so inspired by her courage and just her being in touch with herself at such a young age, and then also learning about how at her school, unfortunately, she had quite a few friends that were not as accepted when they came out to their parents or their families, and really struggled with that. Some were punished, some were even rejected. And so I have a tremendous passion for making sure that we're sharing tools with parents and kids. And if anybody has any questions about how to speak with their families, or maybe you have a friend that has expressed some concerns, I'm here to help as that kind of parent person if you have any questions about that.
That's awesome, Candice. Thank you. You sound like you're a really good mom. I'm getting the mom vibes from you. I feel like we're maybe the same age, so I'm gonna give you a big mom hug.
Yes.
And Stevie, would you like to go next?
I'd love to. And just want to say thank you to United Way and Everfi for creating this space and creating this forum for us to show up today and celebrate Pride in all the ways that the folks who are kind of the representatives on this call and all the folks at the schools are bringing us together to talk openly about what it means to be LGBTQ, because it's not just one thing. So Stevie Johnson from the NFL, I work in marketing strategy and planning. And why I wanted to be a part of today's call is, I grew up in Texas, and I didn't necessarily feel like there was visibility or kind of representation for me to see gay women or gay couples modeled and kind of that lifestyle modeled for me. And, over time, I've become more comfortable for myself with myself and with my sexuality, and am happily married to a woman that I met in college, and wasn't out at that time, but that a journey may be a long one, but that I wish for young people who are learning about themselves or questioning, to have safe spaces and to be able to give back to the community in ways to show there's a way through, and to come to an understanding of who you are and acceptance of who you are, and being able to live a happy and fulfilled life in being a gay woman. So and be able to be out and really embrace who you are in different environments and different aspects. So I guess I would say kind of satisfied customer, and having to go through the coming out process. I learned a lot, and I wouldn't change anything because it's all made me who I am, but I just want to be able to give back to the community that's given to me to help me be happy and thriving as a gay woman working at the NFL today.
That's awesome, Stevie. That was really powerful. Thank you for saying all that. I think you would probably agree with me that when we were middle schoolers, it would have been awesome to have something like this and hear people like you all talking. So that just, again, hits home for me. Thank you so much for spending time with us, and the love and understanding that you're demonstrating to these students, I'm sure, is really powerful. And Stevie, we'll get a gay double date going sometime. Next time you're in Wisconsin, or next time we're in New York, we'll have to do that.
I love it.
That's awesome. So students, we are going to start some poll questions up. You can see a question that comes up on your screen. Choose what answer you think is best. Panelists, you can do it too. And let's go through and see how we do. There's no wrong. I mean, some of them have wrong answers, but there's no grading. There's no failing. So just give it a shot and we'll see where we go. So our first question is a true or false. You got a 50-50 shot. You can tell what someone's experiences are just by looking at them. Is that true or false? Dan, what do you think?
See, as a researcher, I don't want to influence anyone's answers. I want the pure data response back.
Okay.
But in my opinion, it would. Thank you.
Yes. Yay, 100% got it right. It's false.
Experiences just by looking at them. All of your experiences aren't worn on the outside. Some of your experiences are, but many of your experiences are not.
That's right. Thank you. All right, so we've got a good question for your fellow students. Which of these is not a technique you should use to make someone new feel welcome? Not a technique. Should you introduce yourself in class, ask them to join you at lunch, ignore them and wait for someone else to say hi, or check in on them periodically? Remember, what is the thing you don't want to do that will not make someone new feel welcome?
This is a tough one.
It's a hard end of the year questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. My brain is fried by the end of the year, so I know y'all are. So most of the people got it right, which is awesome. Most people said do not ignore them and wait for someone else to say hi. I think that's awesome. I think being proactive about engaging with other people, being open to new people and new experiences, especially when you're, think about when you've been a new person in a new place and it's a little bit scary or a little bit unsure. And isn't it nice to have someone come up to you and say hi and warmly greet you? So think about being that person for someone else too.
Absolutely.
And you could be the person that, for someone else who picked ignore them till someone else says hi, you're the catalyst now. Now other people.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. All right, here's a fact question. On May 17th, 2004, Massachusetts became the first U.S. state to legalize same-sex marriage. Is that true or false? So I wonder, I'm trying to do the math. I don't think y'all were born then. right? Is this, oh, I'm feeling old.
Ooh.
Ooh,
We are old.
ooh, we
Yeah.
are old. Let's see what we answered. True. Yes, that is
Look at
correct.
that, 100% correct.
Well,
These are good students.
that's 3 data points, though. I'm sorry. As a nerd, I just have to point out the minutia of
Take that
interpreting.
stats hat off, Dan.
Okay.
We're
Nope,
excited. It's an
Never.
A+. All right, we got our fourth question, which is a true or false. The majority of teens who are LGBTQIA+ come out to their school guidance counselors. True or false? Who do you think you come out to first? Does anyone want to talk about, I mean, Stevie, do you want to talk about who you came out to first? You want to just name the person? I know we got to keep her moving, but I'll say for myself, it was my best friend first.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense.
Oh, and we're split
Oh.
50-50. So half said true, half said false. So the false was correct. The majority come out to their close friends. So I'm in the majority.
But it depends on what
Awesome.
your school counselor is like. Maybe you have a great counselor.
Very true.
feel
Very
closer
true.
to, but in
Mhm.
most situations, you will feel closer to your peers at that age
Yeah.
to come out to them first.
Most definitely. True or false? I feel confident helping a friend when they come to me for help or advice. There's no wrong answer there. Just pick whichever you feel like is the right one for you.
I always feel confident that I will give them help or advice. I'm not confident that it's the correct help or advice that I'm providing them.
Yes, yes.
That's
I'll say that's true for myself. True. Oh, that's so good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Everybody
think-
said true.
Yeah, one thing that's always been helpful for me is even if the person that I've gone to for help or advice doesn't have the answer, that it's just helpful for them to listen and to be a safe space. So you can, if you're listening and you're a safe space, you can't really be wrong.
That's an awesome point, Stevie. You don't have to have all the answers, but just listening and being there is important. All right, we got, one of these out of 4 is the correct answer. What is the term for a straight and or cisgender person who supports and advocates for LGBTQIA+ individuals? Is it friend, ally, supporter, or confidant? I think these are all good things to be. Now, maybe there's a specific
You could
definition,
be
but
all
those
of
are all
these,
good
yeah.
things to be.
Mhm.
Yeah, echo that.
Oh,
Awesome.
everyone got it right.
Nice.
It's ally.
Mhm.
Ally, awesome. And we love our allies. Thank you to everyone who considers themselves an ally. Again, you don't have to be an expert on all things to be an ally. You don't have to get everything right, but we're just happy that the people who consider themselves allies are there, and we love you guys. All right, so now this is just your personal opinion. So again, there's no wrong answer. What do you think is the best way to advocate for others? Is it speaking up when you witness someone in a challenging situation? Educating others on the history of the content discussed? Or organizing protests and social movements? Those are all good things to do.
I agree.
What do you, Candice, which of those in your life would you say that you do most often?
So I would say I'm thinking about the awesome kids that we're talking to today. I think they probably have so many opportunities day to day. Maybe it's a school bus, maybe it's in the cafeteria where you might hear something that might be just a little off, or sometimes it's something that's so like kind of like knocks your breath out of your tummy a little bit because you're so surprised. And you would be I think also equally as surprised as how much influence you have by just being able to say something, even if it doesn't have to do with you. You know, you can say, hey, whoa, like that's not cool, or wait, you know, we don't say that anymore, or, you know, however you frame your words. Sometimes I think people, and this is kids and adults, sometimes we feel like us saying something even small doesn't really make an impact, but you would be surprised at how meaningful it can be for your voice to just be one to kind of tap somebody a little bit and remind them like, hey, you know, like we can do better than that. So yeah, I would say speaking up for sure it's free, you know, it takes 2 seconds and it's
That's right.
something you can do really anytime.
Now you must have read the next question because that is a perfect segue to our 8th and final question. She's got the cheat sheet to this. All right, last question. Have you ever used your voice to advocate and educate others? Is that a yes or a no for you? Now, I would say about this, it doesn't matter who you are. And Candice, you started on this a little bit, but you know, you could think of yourself, as having a smaller voice, a bigger voice, whatever. It doesn't matter. You know, using your voice is so important, whatever age you are,
Yeah.
wherever you are in your life or your career. Do you think so, Dan?
I would very much agree. I'm trying not to take up too much space. Being a white male, I tend to do that a lot, just naturally. That's my default position. But I was going to say, in regards to what Candice said, speaking up definitely matters. And I'll tell you something, not saying anything is recognized as well. There is a lot
without
of
a
times where
doubt.
we assume that if everyone else doesn't say anything, then everyone else doesn't agree. Like everyone else thinks a certain way. We make perceptions, we make assumptions about what everyone else agrees based on what they do and what they don't say. So sometimes your silence speaks even louder than your words do. And I wanted to say too, it's important that on that last question, any of those things are great. And any of those things you feel comfortable doing are awesome. And hopefully we can move people from I'm okay confronting someone when they use the term gay in a derogatory way and move towards I want to learn more about this and educate others, and then towards like protests and marching and things like that.
That's awesome.
Something to add to that too. I think all of those are ways of using your voice, of advocating for other people, but you don't get there. You don't get to organizing, protests overnight. You don't go from doing nothing to doing that. The idea of just starting to stretch yourself a little bit, do something that you feel like, oh, my gut doesn't feel right to not say something here. Just to push yourself outside your comfort zone a little bit takes time, and you build that muscle and you become a little more comfortable having a larger voice or taking up space or kind of practicing how you talk to people, and have constructive, we use this word dialogue. I grew up in a conservative world and I now live in Brooklyn, New York. I'm, on vacation with my family and we're having constructive dialogue as opposed to just, saying, I don't agree with what you say. So it's a muscle. It takes practice.
That's awesome. Thank you. That was a really good conversation. You all made amazing points. Such a good panel. I'll exclude myself. I'm just happy to be here. But these 3 panelists are amazing. So we've got some questions lined up that we wrote, but students, if you have a question, remember to put that in that Q&A box and we'll answer as many as we can. But first, we'll ask our questions. Panelists, some of them I'm going to throw at one or more of you directly, but for all of them, feel free to jump in, answer whatever you feel like, whatever you don't feel like, don't worry about it. So let's start for the students who may not know, what does Pride Month celebrate?
I'll take this one.
All right.
Thanks, Marissa. And didn't mention it earlier, but Stevie pronouns she, her. Pride Month, so there's a history behind it. It's not just something that came out of nowhere that LGBTQ folks were, wanted to join in the parade summer celebrations. It's rooted in a resistance that back in the late 60s, gay people weren't allowed, gay LGBTQ folks weren't allowed to congregate or weren't allowed to hang out together in groups. It was deemed illegal. And there's a place in New York that supported and kind of allowed people to come together to create a safe space for them, even though it was illegal. So the police, since it was an illegal activity, they would kind of target that location and come and try to break things up. And in June of, I believe it was 1969, somebody correct me if I'm wrong here, but in June, one night, the folks that were at this place called Stonewall Inn decided that they were going to resist arrest and say, we're just getting together with friends. We're congregating in a way that's, it's not hurting anybody else. So, leave us be. But those were called the Stonewall riots, and that kind of became the beginning of the fight for gay rights and the whole LGBTQ rights movement. And I think something that's important to recognize there is that, then and even, importantly now, that it wasn't just one type of gay person or trans person. It was a very intersectional effort. It was a power and strength in numbers. There were folks who resisted that night. There were folks who marched days later, and the LGBTQ plus community is a representative community. It's has people of color. It has people from all socioeconomic classes. It has people of many different ages and immigration backgrounds. So it is a representative community, and in order for that resistance and that the push for LGBTQ rights over the past decade, half decade, and some, it's been strengthened by the intersectionality of LGBTQ folks coming together across all walks of life.
Thanks,
Anybody
Stevie.
have anything to add? I'm sure I'm not doing it nearly the justice that it
Oh
deserves.
my gosh. No, that was so good. That was really, really awesome. I'm like, I don't even want to follow that, but that was super great. And I know we'll continue to talk about intersectionality. And I'm glad that you mentioned, for the benefits of the students who are on the call, just how recent those fights are and how those still continue today. I mean, students, did you know? We talked about Massachusetts in 2004 being the first state to legalize it, but that was such an outlier during that time. It's only been throughout the country legal for me to get married to my wife, for Stevie to marry her wife, for 8 years. Like, you guys, that's been in your lifetimes that we got those rights. Isn't that crazy? So I'm glad we're all talking about this today. If
And
anyone else,
Marissa, yeah, just one other thing to add, and I'd say intersectionality, that also includes allyship. We have
yes,
Kandice here as a parent of
yes,
an LGBTQ young person. Allyship helps people relate, and it also helps people to understand. I don't think my parents necessarily could relate to the experiences of LGBTQ folks that were their peers until they knew what I was going to live through or my experiences. So to have parents of LGBTQ folks marching with the community, it's been incredibly impactful. And you see a lot of this today in the Protect Trans Kids movement. It's an incredibly powerful, where you're seeing folks from both sides of the aisle coming together, because it's important to allow kids to be in safe spaces, to be who they are, and to really become who they are supposed to be. And a lot of that is brave parents as well.
definitely. Well, we touched on this a little bit, but I would like to hear, what some others think too, and expand on what Stevie was saying. What is diversity to you, and why is it important?
So I can take that one. And I would say, to follow up on what Stevie was saying about what pride is and who pride is for, that pride is for everyone too. It's not just for those who identify a certain way. It's really for everyone. And however you identify, we should celebrate that. And that's fantastic. And what we're striving for here is to bring a level of equality for all types of identities. And what we're celebrating is how far we've come trying to get those identities to be equal, and how far we still need to go. Because even as a bisexual man, I experience way more privilege than, let's say, a transsexual person of color does. It is not the same playing field at all, even though we both might identify as queer or be put into the LGBTQIA bucket. And so what is diversity is a very good, very terrible question to ask a white guy, but it is the fact that we have so many different experiences and backgrounds, and we have so many different ways that we see the world that we can share with each other, and they need to be put on a level playing field where they're all respected to the same degree. And so I think Pride is about respecting the fact that we are so diverse and pushing towards all those levels of diversity being equal in all eyes.
I would love to add to
Awesome.
that, Dan. So Stevie touched on something really important about when she was connecting with her parents early, and how it only became a little easier for them to understand when it was someone that was directly connected to them. And when we talk about diversity, we discuss this a lot at United Way. That means so much more even than race or how you identify or who you love. You know, we have folks that learn differently, different learning capabilities. You might have an invisible disability. You might have, a parent at home that you're taking care of, and so that's a diverse family versus, so we have so many different families, different ways of navigating the world. And sometimes we forget that there are all of these different groups or challenges or ways of living if it doesn't necessarily pertain to us. But if we can be accepting and navigate with grace and acceptance and compassion, those are things that we'll get where we need to get faster too. Life will be a lot easier for all of us, not just the folks going through it, but even your neighbors and your relatives. So yeah, I love the idea of thinking of diversity, really broadly.
That's awesome. Thank you, Candice. Stevie, I see you doing this. Can you tell our students?
Yeah. Well, I saw Dan do it earlier, but
Yes.
snaps, just kind of, quiet applause. I see that I can't do the gestures in my normal Zoom, like hearts and claps and the icons. So I'm trying to do what I can to give snaps to those points. I love Candice's note and just moving through spaces with grace. And I think humility comes with that as well. That's just wanted to give her props. I love that point.
And actually, I think it actually came from the fact that some people find loud applause very upsetting, including like as Candice mentioned, like neurodivergent people, people with learning disabilities. And so this is a way for us to show that we appreciate what someone's saying in a way that doesn't impede on their space or their sensory experience.
That's awesome. I'm glad you jumped in with that, Dan. This is so good. I'm so glad that I get to be here to listen to this. This is awesome. So this one is for Candice. Candice, can you tell us about a hardship that you faced and how you've overcome that?
So I was thinking about giving you an example, but that would be kind of depressing. So rather than doing that, what I'll do is if I could talk about the idea of hardship, because
yes,
we are all promised hard stuff. We're all going to have to do hard things. And a hard thing might be a class that you hate, like me. I took chemistry, failed it twice before I actually passed the thing. And I worked really hard for those 2 Fs, okay? Or it could be something at home. It could be, maybe a step parent or a person at school that's really annoying, or, there's so many things, especially as a kid, that you guys have to deal with that are just in your environment and you don't necessarily have control over because you are dependent upon the adults around you, right? So when you have something hard, I always encourage kids, do what you can to get help as soon as possible. And that starts with vocalizing what the problem is, because even though something is hard, think about like a backpack. And if you put like some water jugs in your backpack, you're walking around with all of this weight. And at some point, you're going to get lower and lower and lower and lower and slower. And you don't have to do that, right? So I say, seek help. Maybe that's a friend, maybe that's a counselor, maybe it's a relative that you trust, even a neighbor, but find someone who can give you some answers or some feedback and maybe point you to the help that you need, and start working towards a solution, because Stevie also mentioned like exercising the muscle, just like your favorite football players, you know, they're just working their bodies every day for hours. They're exercising a muscle, and that stuff hurts. But as they exercise, they get faster, they get better. So you're exercising the tool of how do I solve a problem as quickly as I can so that I can move on, because it's hard things are not permanent. But we have to get better at looking for help and getting to the solution faster so you can move on. And then sometimes, you know, just being totally realistic, when we grow up in a home, sometimes the solution is just being a better adult. You know, sometimes it's like, I'm going to do my best right now, but at some point when I go to high school or college, I'm going to be a better friend. I'm going to be a better parent. I'm going to be the person that I needed. So always keep that hopefulness in mind, and that idea to look for what you can do to solve the problem and move on.
That's really, really well said. And I'm glad you talked about the adults in our lives too. I mean, they're even, you know, a lot of us have been blessed with amazing parents, and a lot of us have had a bit of a harder time with some of the adults in our life. But you've got great resources. You've got teachers with you that love and care about you. You've got other adults in your community, and I would encourage you to reach out to them. And I'm really glad that you made that point, Candice. That was really well said. So let's do two more, and then we're going to switch to student questions. This one I'm going to direct at Stevie. I know Stevie does really amazing work with the NFL. So Stevie, could you please tell us, what do you feel most proud about as it relates to the work that you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking, Marissa. I mentioned I work at the NFL. I grew up as an athlete. As a female athlete, there was an assumption that because I was very good, that I was gay. And at the time, I wasn't in a place where I was ready to deal with that. And people were putting me in a box that I hadn't come to on my own. So that was really hard. And, you know, kind of on the flip side, I know with my male friends who were athletes, it was another type of stigma around, you know, if anybody might be perceived to be less strong, they were, you know, stereotyped as somebody who would be, you know, gay, called names, derogatory names related to that. So, you know, fast forward over time, you know, was able to play sports in college, and they were just a fantastic vehicle, and opened a bunch of doors for me and gave me a lot of fantastic life experiences that helped me to grow to become a resilient adult, and, you know, somebody who I think has embraced the concept of grit and this growth mindset. But, you know, I haven't necessarily always felt like sport embodied safe spaces for LGBTQ folks. And at the league, especially in the marketing department, you know, we believe in, one, engaging diverse audiences, because, you know, from a business standpoint, we think that, and traditionally, the NFL fan base has looked exactly like the US population. So if the US population is starting to change and look more like what Gen Z and, you know, Gen Alpha, so you and your, you know, younger siblings and your peers, y'all are the gayest generation ever. So I get to now, I get to now say to, you know, people that look a lot like my grandparents, that our fan base is not going to look like what the fan base looked like when you were growing up. So let's embrace, let's include, let's demonstrate how, you know, like inviting this sport is, because it can be very unifying. And we've seen the power of what sport can do to unify people in hard times over the past few years. That, you know, sport can be an escape when the news is not stuff that we want to tune into. So I take great pride and am very, very energized and heartened by the work that we're taking on, and genuinely investing our time and energy in making football specifically, but hopefully sport as a halo effect of that, the most inclusive place that it can be, because we want as many of you to be able to enjoy sport in a safe and inclusive way as possible, because it is a great unifier. It's a fantastic way to spend time and bond with each other. So hopefully it's doing justice to you and your peers, and inviting you into the sport if you're not fans yet, but helping you feel like it is a true place and home to celebrate and enjoy the sport with your friends and family.
And you've done an amazing job. Everybody at the league's done such a good job doing that. I mean, I feel so welcomed, not just at my workplace, but as part of the league family and as a fan too. I mean, it's so cool. I've got a Pride themed Packers shirt. That's awesome. I should have worn it today. Right.
Good.
But I'm like,
I tried.
yes.
I don't know if you can see it, but
oh, that is cool.
Yeah.
I have to pick up some swag
Yeah.
from the league, some league
Yeah.
Pride stuff. That is pretty cool.
Yeah. And there's, naturally there's still a lot of work to do, but it's got to start somewhere. And, like
Right.
we said earlier, it takes practice, and change takes time. So, just stay with us, keep telling us what we can keep doing to bring folks in, and, keep trying to make this place feel like a family.
Awesome. Thank you for being you. Anybody else want to jump in about their work, or should we move on to our last question, non-student question? Okay, let's jump to final question we have before we go to student questions. Is for Dan. Anyone can jump in, but I'll ask Dan off the bat. Dan, what values are the most important to you that you've learned from your experiences to get you to where you are today?
That's a great question. Thank you so much. And I would say that the two that have meant the most to me in just personal development are integrity and empathy. And integrity is just believing in who you are at all times and staying strong with who that is. There was definitely a time when I came out in college to my parents. I was at a small liberal arts college that was very accepting of my lifestyle and my choices. And I was like, this is great. I am so happy that I'm so accepted. And then I went back to my small town in Pennsylvania, and they were not the same environment. And I was not welcomed in the same way at all. And so I went and hid again. And I went and joined a bunch of communities that were mainly defined by toxic masculinity and escapism. And I wasn't integral to myself. I didn't hold true with who I was. I was like, this is easier to pretend I'm someone else than to be who I truly am. And I regret doing that very much. And it's become easier as I've gotten older. Trust me, you will not be as embarrassed later in life as you are right now. I have a 12-year-old son, who is embarrassed about everything. And seriously, you will not care when you get older. It will not bother you as much. You will make a scene in a mall and it'll flow past you like a river. Like it won't matter to you at all. And then empathy is just in terms of understanding what other people are going through. And the hardest part of empathy is understanding with people who you disagree with or have very strong beliefs that are contrapositive to what you believe. And that's the hardest one. That's a muscle that I really have continued to try to build. I very much empathize with with children, with minorities, with people who are struggling. It is much harder for me to empathize with those people who are anti-LGBTQ or have political views that are very different from my own. But that's the only way. My growing in that way is necessary to build the world that I want to live in as well. I'm not going to create any growth. Protesting is important, and marching is important, and speaking out is important. And I do all of those things. But in order to make a personal connection with someone who I disagree with, I need to have empathy for them. And so oftentimes empathy makes my life harder, but it does make the world, I think, better to be empathetic.
And it's hard to have empathy sometimes with people who hurt us, right? Whether that's bullying or people who don't like you for who you are. That can be a hard skill to have.
It is. And you mentioned building muscles, and the process where you build muscles is actually you tear the old muscle apart. and the muscle grows back together stronger is how you build muscles. And sometimes you have to tear down things that are not working for you anymore, patterns that aren't working for you, thought patterns or biases or prejudice, and allow them to grow back stronger. And that's how you grow.
That's great. That's really well said. All right. Last couple of minutes, panelists, can you give us a quick one-sentence last note of advice or encouragement to all the students out here who are listening?
I'll go. I'll take this one. So I would say it's kind of twofold. One, this generation, I think I mentioned this at the top of the hour, I'm so impressed by how intelligent you guys are, how advanced you are. I know you're kind of used to yourselves, so you may not see yourselves as wise and advanced and smart, but you have so much information and you're so much more mature in a lot of ways than some of the previous generations. And I'm so excited to see the work that you all are doing, from everything related to this pride to climate change to, I mean, you guys are just superstars. So I would say, always remember that you are in charge of the way the world works. You're going to be our future judges, our future lawyers. You're going to be the ones who are making all of the laws and the rules. So just continue to think about the kind of world that you want to see. And also, as you're growing, be easy on yourself. I know that there's a lot of information about labels, and sometimes we feel like I have to pick a thing. I have to know exactly who I am in 4th grade or 9th grade or 12th grade. And we are all here learning. We're going to be learning until we are no longer here. So your view of yourself, things you like, things you dislike, all that stuff is going to continue to change. So just give yourself a chance to just be who you are. And as you learn more about yourself and you're on that journey, love those things and embrace yourself and say, okay, this is who I am. And maybe I don't know everything today, but that's natural. That's a part of life. So
That's
that
right.
would be my advice.
I think that's great advice. I mean, think about where you were in 3rd and 4th grade, right? Look how far you've come since
Right.
then, and there's more to go. And Dan, what is your final advice?
I can't follow that up. That was too fantastic. I
I
really
know.
because we are such a complex amalgamation. Don't think you have to be like, all right, if I am queer, I have to be this way. If I'm straight, I have to be this way. If I'm a boy, I have to be this way. If I'm a girl, I have to be this way. You don't have to be any of those things. Those are just like how people have been before, and you're a new person that's never existed before. So just be your own way. I wrote down a quote the other day from one of my favorite writers, Bertrand Russell, that I really had never heard before. And it's, love is wise and hatred is foolish. That's all. That's all.
That's perfect. I think that's a great way to close out. It's unfortunately, I'm sure Stevie would have something great to say, but we lost her. She's having internet problems, but
She's not dead. We didn't lose her like that. Like, she didn't pass away.
I mean,
Well, yeah, I don't actually. I don't.
With us on Earth.
she is present on this earth in her physical form. She just doesn't have the internet.
Oh,
I know, but she was awesome. I'm sure she has something brilliant to say. Just be kind to each other, students.
Absolutely.
That's the best thing. That golden rule. Treat each other how you want to be treated. Like, that's it. That's the answer to life, any age you are. Well, thank you, everybody. This was really cool. I had a really good time. I don't know about y'all. I hope you did. Panelists, I hope you had a good time too.
This was great.
awesome.
Yeah, it really
So
was
much.
nice, right? NFL, United Way Worldwide, Everfi. Thank you, everybody, panelists, students, teachers. Thanks, everybody, for putting this together and participating. Students who joined us live, again, and your great questions, thank you. If you're watching the recording, thank you. Appreciate you too. And, we're all a part of history. And don't forget, you can make a difference in the world if you're listening to this, okay? I'm proud of all you students. Thank you, panelists. And hopefully we'll talk to you again next year. And
Thanks,
have a great
students.
rest of your day.
Thank you, teachers. Great summer.
Yay, thank you, teachers.
Happy
Thank you, teachers.
summer.
Happy